All right. Good, man. Fish and golf with First Blood this morning. I see Megan's with us. Good morning, sunshine. And let me bring him in. I've got Mario this morning. And my Lord, we have,
Oh, shit.
oh, yeah, we got some coverage today. And you know what? I forgot I even wanted to cover this. So it didn't even make it in the description. I'm going to go ahead and do it first. We're going to kind of get it out of the way because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I do want to spend a little time on it while I've got Mario for a very particular reason. Senate votes to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. Oh, shit. So I'm glad Mario's with me this morning because there's something in particular I want to talk about with regard to this. I've covered it a little bit in the past, but now that she's confirmed, now that Tulsi is in, let me say this about that.
Well, now Putin controls our presidency and our intelligence agencies. This is horrible.
So Tulsi's a Democrat, right? A Democrat who is going through some major reform. I think Tulsi really did have some serious wake-up calls and honestly is moderating and changing and moving further to the right on some issues. She's not great on the Second Amendment, but she has definitely come around and made some better statements on the Second Amendment. But here's what I love about Tulsi for DNI, and I do love Tulsi for DNI. And it's part of the same thing that we've talked about with Trump and his other picks, like RFK Jr. You know, he's a bit of a nut job on all the Green New Deal, clean energy, all that nonsense. And Trump has been very clear. Yeah, I don't agree with him on that stuff, but that's not what he's in charge of. And we're not gonna put him in a position to influence any of that. RFK wants to go after big pharma and sue the shit out of them. And that's the thing we're going to let him do. And then we're also going to hand him the packet that says, by the way, the CIA killed your family members, right? And we've already got was it Noam that came out and said, I've looked at the intelligence and yeah, there were two shooters. I'm like,
Two shooters.
whoa.
Yeah. So
that was a big bombshell. But here's the thing with Tulsi. Over the last several years, we have seen the massive weaponization of the government, right? And in particular, right, we saw it with the IRS under Obama, but then once Trump started running for office, we saw it happening with the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement agencies. There's been a clear and massive conspiracy among all law enforcement. And when I say all law enforcement, please believe, I mean everything from the FBI down to your local PD in some areas, to include the prosecutors that are posted therein. And so, you know, getting Kash Patel in there to mop that up is going to be great. But we had illegal wiretapping, illegal spying going on all around Trump. And we saw national intelligence assets from multiple different agencies go and perjure themselves. And we've got the receipts. We can show some of them have even been charged and convicted for perjuring themselves over statements made regarding intelligence related to Donald Trump and Russiagate. Now you've got Tulsi Gabbard coming in, who's seen all this stuff happen and was personally also the victim of it because she ran for president as a Democrat, stepped down, endorsed Bernie, who then betrayed her and voted against her for this nomination, by the way. And so, and while she was still on the campaign trail in that primary, you had the same assholes that came out and, you know, signed the letter that said, oh, the laptop shows all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They came out and explicitly stated, everybody from Hillary Clinton down to your USAID funded CNN and New York Times reporters saying that Tulsi Gabbard was a Russian asset. And that, now you've got a woman, a U.S. military service member, who carries TS clearances that has been accused by the system without evidence, without even a whiff of evidence. She's been accused of treason, of working as a U.S. clearance-carrying service member for an enemy while in her official capacity. And now she's got a big ass axe to grind walking into DNI for no other reason. Because let me ask you, Mario.
I hope she's a stereotypical vindictive
What would you
bitch.
do? How would you react? How would you react if somebody came out and made the accusation while you were still active and carrying a clearance that you were an active foreign enemy asset embedded within the United States Intelligence Operations Service?
Well, it's a little different because I'm not subject to like Senate confirmation hearings or, being selected for a top job in Washington, D.C. But
no, but you are subject to prosecution under those accusations.
In such a situation, I would do what any sensible person would do when presented with an insurmountable issue. I would shut the fuck up. And if given a position of authority, directly from the executive office, then no, I would go in there on a campaign of revenge. Why wouldn't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, well, she specifically said that. I mean, during the Senate confirmation hearing, her main point was she's there to stop the weaponization of the intelligence community being used against private citizens, okay, or against citizens of the country. So her mission is to restore the intelligence. Her mission, I suppose, is to restore the Fourth Amendment protections which have been forgotten, okay, since the Patriot Act. Restore those for the American citizenry. Basically, when you run that number query and you see the green phones, the yellow phones, and the red phones, she's going to restore the fear of God in people for querying the red phone. You know what I mean? So, which would be U.S. persons. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. Yeah, and that's been part of the problem, and what has allowed the whole weaponization to go forward. And this is going to be the thing that we get to in just a second. I expect to see more of this out of Tulsi with regard to the intelligence agencies. We're going to talk in just a second about Pam Bondi. But I've been seeing it trending on X quite a bit. Elon is doing great work with DoGE, exposing corruption. They've even gone so far as to claw back the $59 million that went last week to pay for hotels in New York for criminal aliens. So that's a big deal. It's one thing to say, oh, hey, we found corruption happening. It's quite another thing to do something about it, right? So up until this week, DoGE was saying, oh, you've been doing bad things, and now you're going to stop. We're going to take away your ability and authority to do the bad things. Now, with him clawing back the $59 million, now there's an actual consequence for doing the bad things. And that's one of the things that we're seeing up and down. And we've talked about on this show before, and I've said before, everybody who was involved in the conspiracy to defraud the American people related to the active lawfare against Donald Trump through the several indictments that we saw up and down the East Coast, run by corrupt ethno-supremacist prosecutors. And I mean, these people are absolute monsters. These people are pure evil. It is insufficient. It is insufficient that they should have their authority restricted, etc. They must be ruined. They need to spend time in jail. They need to be disbarred. They need to be fined into bankruptcy. And it's not okay. Yeah, there's a bit of vindictive vengeance in my heart, right? There's a bit of me that wants the Schadenfreude, but more importantly, Hillary felt like she could sit there and perjure herself in front of the Congress because Republicans are notoriously bad at wielding power, and so there are no consequences for bad actors.
No, she was right. She was right. She could.
She was right. Right. She was absolutely correct. And what we're seeing now is evidence that that is changing. And I
At
think
this
Donald
point,
Trump and
what
his
difference does it make?
want to see it. We want to see them suffer. And part of that is the Schadenfreude. A part of that is the catharsis of it. But a more important part of it is corrupt, evil people like these state AGs and DAs that were, let's be real, actively engaged. We know this is not supposition. We saw Fannie Willis's boyfriend charging the U.S. taxpayer consulting fees to go and spend time at the White House with Biden while they were ramping up the obviously absurd charges in Georgia he asked him to count the votes. Yes, he asked him to count the votes. You're correct. He asked him to count the votes. And y'all, I was there in 2020 as working on the recount. I saw the shit happen. It was corrupt as hell.
Well, yeah, you said that
in T-shirts from the Carter Center. It was corrupt as hell. But
yeah.
The concern is that these people will continue to operate going forward under the assumption that there are no consequences. It cannot be that there are no consequences. It must be that the consequences are absolute ruin and devastation.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm sorry, Mario. I didn't mean to steamroll you through this.
No. It's other than losing their jobs, I don't think there's going to be anything more than that. It's right now, the Trump administration is doing a very effective job in basically firing shots, basically in all directions. Okay, Chesty Puller style. They have launched basically a blitzkrieg. Okay, against multiple agencies within the federal government. Okay, and with all the executive orders, the never-ending executive orders coming out of the Oval Office, it is basically splitting the resources of the Democrats, okay, and the deep state in general, so where they have to pick and choose what they fight back on. Now they've got 6 injunctions right now against the most important of Trump's executive orders, but still, it's a good thing to force the left to divide themselves into having to choose what they're going to focus their attention on, because they simply don't have the resources to fight Donald Trump in every single action he takes. Okay, it would be a mistake for the Trump administration to singularly focus on one thing. Okay, all right, like trying to put some career bureaucrat, career politician behind bars. That kind of stuff costs you a shit ton of political capital. Okay, it's like we really need to find a different vehicle to impeach these activist federal judges. Okay, these federal judges operate just kind of like the Supreme Court. They're there for life. They're never going away, and it requires a real act of courage from Congress to impeach these people. All right, there has to be a separate vehicle to get rid of the judiciary. The judiciary is so overdue for like a DOJ style, inquisition to root out the bad blood within that branch of government. It's insane. I don't know how they're going to do it, but something's got to be done about the activist judges. They need to be put up for performance reviews or something, and just that we need to find some objective metric to eliminate them.
I heard someone suggest that the remedy for this problem is to give Donald Trump, the president, the authority to recommend impeachment actions against corrupt judges, and the rationale there. So,
is for Trump to bear the political cost of it. Yes,
right. Then the president bears the political cost, and opens up the possibility for the Congress and the Senate to do the work without having to take the political risk.
Yeah.
It's a little thin. It needs some development, but I think it's generally a good idea, kind of moving in the right direction. Yep. Now, to what you were just saying, Mario, that he can't afford to focus on one individual at a time, and so it would be a massive expenditure of political capital.
Let's shore up the present high value political capital operations that are going on right now. Okay, for the Trump administration.
No, I'm going to
We
disagree
can
with
focus
you
on
on
focus on revenge later.
I'm going to disagree with you on something there real quick. The sentiment, the zeitgeist, the national sentiment, and the popularity of what DOGE is doing among the voter base is so powerful, is so positive. America is so positive on DOGE shutting down these criminal activities. I honestly think that the things that you're describing as being expensive at the cost of political capital are going to rather generate political capital. Trump,
Could be.
what's happening now? You keep hearing the sentence: promises made, promises kept. And what's happening is every time Donald Trump goes in and says we're done funding your transgender Sesame Street, we're done funding your inebriated toad sex investigation, we're done funding your Chinese heroin hooker project. It's over. Every time he strikes one of those down, which would previously have cost political capital, right? One of the reasons that probably the primary reason that the welfare state has grown so large that the cost of it over the entire life of its existence since its inception is the national debt, right? And it's gotten that way because it costs a suicidally high amount of political capital to go in and try and shut down a program or fix a program, right? Like, if the obvious solution to the problem of Social Security being insolvent in 10 years is that we raise the retirement age to 72, guess what? There's a bunch of 65 to 72-year-olds who suddenly who are going to be afraid that they're going to get cut off. And of course, that's not how it's going to happen. There will be a period of step off, but you'll have people who are 64 that are watching their Social Security walk away from them as they age toward it. And it'll be very difficult to gain that political capital. You're right on how those work. But now that we're seeing the exposure of things like U.S. aid funding propaganda machines like the New York Times, Politico, et cetera, Trump is gaining political capital every time he does one of these things because America is looking at it and saying, fuck yeah, this is what I voted for. One of the things that I'm seeing a lot of on X, they keep saying, nobody voted for Elon Musk. And I'm seeing thousands of people reply, the Donald brought Elon up on stage at the rallies and said, I'm going to put Elon Musk in charge of shutting down fraud, waste, and abuse and corruption. And then the majority of Americans voted for it. So yes, we absolutely voted for this.
Well,
hey, Wildflower's back.
It's a good talking point. I mean, to be fair, Musk wasn't elected. He's he's special teams brought in by Trump.
Correct.
I support it. I'm totally for it. And like you said, could it generate political capital? I mean, the people do love the spectacle, don't they? I certainly have. I mean, it's part of the reason I haven't been on the show for a few days because I'm just exhausted by. I'm tired of winning, basically. It's too,
no, you know what? I mean, you know what? It's like this. You ever get? I know you've been here. You've worked your ass off. You've been out in the yard splitting firewood, or you've been to a job site and been working on building a building. You've been working your ass off all day. You get to the end of the day, you've done great work. You're proud of the work you've done. You're energized, but you're just blown out because you've hit muscle failure. You've been doing towel push-ups for 12 hours. You cannot physically move anymore, but you're totally down to sit around and bullshit and drink some beers and high energy conversation, but you got no more pick up and go. I'm not tired of winning, but I'm exhausted from it.
From the effort, yeah. Well, it really has been. I mean, you could have for the last week, every single show could have just been what DOJ did today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And honestly, half the shows I've done for the last 2 weeks have at least mentioned what DOGE has done. Yeah. Like this morning, we're not even talking about what DOGE has done, but we have to mention it in context of the conversation. Now, the other thing you said, and I wanted to get back to this about Trump being unable to focus too much on locking people up and wasting time, whereas we need to be shoring up the other gains. I would generally agree with you. But Pam Bondi just said, "Fuck New York." Announces lawsuit against New York Hotel and State AG James over sanctuary status.
Yeah, that's fine. That's her job. So yes. Pam Bondi can do that. Okay, that doesn't mean to be Trump. What Trump needs to be focused on right now is getting Congress to actually do something to reinforce the executive actions that he's taken. Okay, because of all the great things that Trump put on a piece of paper, okay, and signed, none of it is going to matter if that stuff is not enshrined in legislation somewhere, if it doesn't become like codified. Okay, if it's just him, then the moment he's gone, it will all disappear in record time, just like it did last time, where Biden just undoes everything with a stroke of a pen that occurred in the previous 4 years. Okay, now let me ask you this. I was thinking to myself yesterday, what has Congress done lately? Can you think of anything? Nothing.
No.
They've done literally nothing. What is Mike Johnson doing as far as crafting legislation that is going to reinforce what Donald Trump is trying to do, like single-handedly from the executive office?
Right, and that is the thing that he needs to be doing. That's the thing that Congress needs to be doing, is saying, okay, Donald Trump did the right thing. He shut down corrupt spending. You know what? Here's a law. Let's make it unlawful for, Politico to have an extraordinary outsized cost subscription, because that's one of the ways that they were money laundering cash into Politico. Is, if you're just Joe Schmucky on the street and you want to have a subscription so that you can read the stuff behind the paywall, it's like 10, 15, 20 bucks a month to get a subscription, while the government is paying between $3,000 and $15,000 for that same subscription. And, okay, let's say you bought a house.
Basically, very expensive subscription bots, essentially.
Right. Let's say you bought a house. Oh yeah. It's between $3,000 and $15,000 for a subscription, and you've got individual departments of the U.S. government, right, multiples, buying a few hundred of these subscriptions. That's insane. Yeah. That's a huge amount of money. In fact, it's $34.1 million. All told. But let's say you I don't know.
I'm sure you talked about that in the past week. But one of the things that's been uncovered with the USAID being shut down and digging into and finding out where the money is going is USAID is basically literally paying for the political ecosystem, okay, that it operates in. It is buying the environment within which it works. It is all astroturfed. None of it is legitimate. Okay, so
right, Democrat voters like Wildflower, for example, don't exist. They've all been fabricated by stolen tax dollars.
Yeah. So basically, fake bot subscriptions doesn't surprise me in the least. Just a way to pay themselves.
Well, yeah, it's dead internet theory, right? And hey, I appreciate the money that goes into bots like Wildflower, who find their way to my channel and improve my metrics and get more viewers on here. I do. Wildflower, I hope that you bring thousands of your bot troll friends, and whatever calling center you're working in out of India, why don't you ask Samir and Habibi to pop over with their 30,000 phones, and let's blow this channel up. Get you some, son. Oh, that's right. That's right. Your power got shut off because you aren't getting paid anymore.
Shouldn't have taken that eight-month buyout. Could have got paid for 8 months.
Well, I think that's only for actual. I think that's only for actual U.S. government employees. I don't think they're offering that to the various terror groups that we're funding.
Oh, that's too bad. I think I might be willing to make a small donation from the federal government to Redditors to just stay offline, to the perpetually online,
brother,
to just log off for a week. Let's test that test that dead internet theory. What happens?
I promise you, if I was en route for 72 virgins, I would take the 8-month buyout.
Yep.
So Pam Bondi is filing suit and is discussing charges for the several. Let's see who it's 8 for. She's going after Hochul, Letitia James.
They have to. This isn't revenge. Just so the audience understands, this is not like political revenge just because they prosecuted Trump. Okay, this is absolutely necessary. You're talking about the head of the judiciary in a state that has gone completely out of control. These people can summon basically politically partisan-minded grand juries like at will, and just charge anyone with anything. This is a reckless, out of control lawfare state. In New York,
it's a rogue state.
And something's got to be done to censure it, like right away. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, they should be in jail, 100%. I mean, anyway, you were saying?
No, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, it's a rogue state.
Yeah, like why wait for them to make their next move? You know they will. They're just going to wait. They're going to wait until like the first scandal of the Trump administration, and then that's when they pounce. The moment public sentiment would turn slightly against Donald Trump, that is when they pounce.
Yeah, and absolutely, the thing that we should be doing. Oh, okay, Mario, you sent it to me. Here it is. The thing that we should be doing is shutting all that down. There have to be massive consequences for these enemies of the United States of America. Right? Okay.
I'll tell you something I saw in the news yesterday. You talked about America just being sick of it, and the left being so out of touch, and having no self-realization of what they're doing. You see Worcester, Massachusetts yesterday declaring itself the first trans sanctuary city. Did you see the Batman villain Rogues Gallery that went up to the podium and spoke at that press conference? Okay, it looked like it looked like a random assortment of individuals from like Joker's gang. All right. Psychotic Xanax mothers dragging their 7-year-old sons up to the stage to speak out against Donald Trump. I mean, it's you just need a flamethrower to make it clean.
They're about one ludicrous development away from just beginning to perform public castrations. They're going to bring out a stage and they'll show up with that heavy duty pair of pliers looking thing that puts the rubber bands on the back of a bull. And yeah. So all right. I don't have a good segue for this one. I want to just go ahead and switch over to the other thing that we're going to talk about this morning. And this is pretty much your show. Just tell me when you need the next slide.
Okay. So I guess you could say the segue would be government fraud, total waste of taxpayer dollars. Okay, I mean this epitomizes it more than anything else. All right.
Well, yeah, we got a statement out of Zelensky just was end of last week, I think. He said, "Yeah, we've gotten 100, and the U.S. says they've sent 177 billion dollars to Ukraine. Yep. We've only gotten 75 billion. We don't know where the other 102 went."
Correct. There's $100 billion in money that has gone to Ukraine that is completely unaccounted for. Let that sink in. $100 billion.
Yeah.
More than half of the aid has disappeared into certain individuals' pockets. All right, within the Ukraine. Like I said, it was common knowledge before this war broke out that Ukraine was the most corrupt country in Europe. Okay, when it came to that type of shit. So Chris and I were thinking the other day, just because of the sheer amount of happenings going on in DC, all related to DOJ, the U.S. aid. Shutting down U.S. aid is going to be an onion that is going to be peeled back for months and months and months from now. Okay, that story will not end, just because the labyrinthian octopus tentacles of money that have gone in every direction, and the way that it's been dispersed, hidden, and offshored. It's just incredible, that story. But we thought maybe we'd do a little foreign policy, and we haven't talked about Ukraine in quite a while. So, Russo-Ukraine war, February 2025. Things are not looking good for Mr. Zelensky here. All right, let's go to the next. So, what's happened is Donald Trump made a decision yesterday he made a call to President Putin. Okay, of Russia, and they worked out a basic framework on how they're going to achieve peace, how to achieve like the ceasefire, and then a peace agreement, and that is now in the works. All right, and I long overdue. This is one of those things that I voted for. That was a non-negotiable. I want this farce, this tragedy of a war to end immediately. So, how has this been playing in the media right now? Well, America will. I don't think the audience can't see the top of the slide, can they? It is kind of. It looks it's a little cropped, but I guess that's okay. Anyway,
there's nothing missing.
Yep. All right. Well,
the only thing they can't see is down at the bottom where our faces are, and all we're covering up is the number of reactions and comments. We're not actually covering up any comments.
Okay. So, America, when it comes to foreign policy, America will abandon you. America treats countries like, shiny toys that they play with when they're interested in, and then when they become a problem or they no longer have interest, they get discarded. Ukraine is finding that out. Now, I think it's for a good thing, all right, because bottom line is the war has to end. We've had nearly 1 million men die, okay, in Eastern Europe over this, and that's unacceptable. But Ukraine isn't taking it well, and the liberal establishment media, in particular the neocon, Atlanticist media, not taking this well. All right. Here we have a senior Ukrainian government official, right? So we're supposed to give up national territory, never join NATO, right? What he's talking about here is in 1991, after the fall of the Soviet Union, we made a deal with the Ukraine, which suddenly became a breakaway state from the Soviet Union, that if they give up their nuclear weapons, and they had substantial nuclear stockpiles because the Soviet military had stationed a lot of nuclear weapons in the Ukraine, that if they gave up their nuclear weapons, then they would basically be protected. All right, that's great then. That made sense then. But we're talking 1991. It's been over 30 years. Things change. Okay, you can't be bound by something that was agreed on over 30 years ago. It has to be revised. All right.
Well, and real quick, Mario, that statement, you can't be bound by a deal that was made 30 years ago. Let's be clear about what's happened with Ukraine in the intervening 30 years. The Democrat Party, specifically the Biden and Clinton cartels, these major dynastic Democrat crime families, have used the fact that America agreed to defend Ukraine as a sticking point to use to infiltrate and install Zelensky, who, by the way, let's not forget, elections in the Ukraine are still suspended under the rule of Zelensky by his fiat command. They suspended elections to maintain power throughout this conflict. This conflict was instigated and funded directly by Joe Biden by shutting down the Keystone Pipeline and funneling that money over to the Ukraine and into the Nord Stream pipeline. And at the end of the day, what's going on over there, and this is why you're seeing the blanket pardons from Biden, especially of Hunter for the 10-year period, 11-year period, what have you. they've been operating a massive money laundering campaign over there. And if Zelensky leaves power and DOGE investigates U.S. aid and funding, like one of the things that Elon said he's going to be looking at now is senators and Congress people who have dramatically outsized net worth compared to their salaried income. And he's going to be looking to see, okay, you make $250,000 a year, Elizabeth Warren. How are you worth $250 million?
Yeah,
right? He's going to be asking those questions, and they're scared to death that he's going to expose that money laundering and hopefully claw back some of the money that they've stolen.
Well, thanks to the work of the CIA and Victoria Nuland, okay, the U.S. political class has been using Ukraine as a money laundering operation for at least a decade, okay, since the 2014 Maidan Revolution. So, and that's coming to an end.
Which
and
was
yes,
directly funded through U.S. aid.
Correct.
The Maidan Revolution was a project
Correct.
of U.S. aid explicitly and directly.
Yes, it was. And the architect behind it, Norm Eisen, okay, he had his security clearance stripped yesterday, which is good news.
Yeah.
Okay, now interesting. Look at this Atlantic article here. Okay, how they're going to try to pivot this, how they try to frame this. Okay, Trump is facing a catastrophic defeat in Ukraine. So it's Trump's war now. Right. So it's
right. It makes and it just begs me the question: how much did I pay for this headline?
Yeah, exactly. The Atlantic is, by God, like it is the most shitlib neocon publication and a pretentious publication that you could possibly imagine. All right. The Atlantic is where like readers of The Economist go to FedPost. All right.
And this idea that they can just suddenly make this Trump's war. Putin annexed land under Clinton, under Bush, under Obama, and he stopped. And then he went into Ukraine under Biden.
Yep.
Trump is the only president since the fall of the Soviet Union under whom Putin has not aggressively expanded his territory through military conquest.
Yeah. So
Trump is literally the only living president who does not bear responsibility for the Ukraine war. At worst, you can say that the war may have been worse than it might have been if it had been allowed to happen earlier, and Trump is at fault for preventing that war from occurring 4 years prior to when it did. And the other piece,
it's pretty hard to call it Trump's war when they impeached him for simply talking to the Ukrainian president during his last administration.
Right. And this idea that you could just lay this at the feet of Donald Trump. Y'all, the Donald has been the president again for about 3 weeks, right? This is kind of like the whole, why is the price of eggs so high thing going on? Y'all, they're telling me the price of eggs is going up. Okay, this is a bit of an aside, and it's something that I want to talk about more later, but I don't think we'll have time to get to it in this show this morning. But just real quick, there has been a few articles now exposing the lie of the economy, and we now know, so all through, God, there's a whole lot going on, and I'm trying to organize my thoughts on it so that I can pop out a brief summary.
This is why I've been off the show for a while. I'm just trying to let the dust settle
so I can get it all together. And what I'm about to explain is worth a whole show by itself. Okay, throughout the whole period of the Biden regime, prices were going up and up and up and up and up, and we saw the Democrats saying, "Oh no, the economy's stronger than ever." Don't believe your lying eyes. And this is one of the reasons that Donald Trump got elected, is because the Democrats are saying, we've got the lowest unemployment in history. Inflation is slowly coming down. Everything's great. The economy's doing awesome. And we're all sitting out here like, wait, hold on a minute. I buy my eggs by the 5 dozen. They've been in the $20 range for more than 6 months. Now I'm seeing them on Twitter posting, "Hey, why are eggs so expensive?" They've been that expensive for a while now, and then it's Trump's in office, and all of a sudden the eggs are too expensive. It's like, well, hold on a minute. Donald Trump did not order the extermination of 100 million chickens just over 2 months ago. 3 months ago.
Yeah,
so
stop
November,
slaughtering the chickens over the flu. Maybe then the price of eggs will go down.
Right.
Okay. Like we've killed like 43 million chickens. All right. This year.
This year.
That's why the price of eggs are so high.
Yeah, it was 100 million.
43 million.
100 million last year. 100 million last year between November and December, and another 40-some million this year.
Yep.
That's why the price of eggs is up. And that's so, but oh no, it's Trump's fault because he's in office. Yo,
it's a classic leftist strategy.
Everything was Trump's fault. That everything wrong with Biden's administration was Trump's fault. Literally until the day he took office. Until the day he retook office.
Well,
right?
a classic leftist strategy, classic Democrat strategy is where, we're losing or it's our fault. Well, here, let me change the definition of some words. See, now you're losing. Now it's your fault. Go to college. It's like,
yeah, and like one of the lies that we were told over and over again is, Joe Biden has the lowest unemployment in history. Turns out, no, the actual unemployment rate during the Biden administration was about 26%.
All right. Yeah.
So
they changed definition. Correct. The unemployment rate numbers that you saw in 1980 are not the same numbers that you're seeing today because they've changed definitions. People should understand.
No.
That. Okay?
I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about that, Mario.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about it either. We need to go back to Ukraine.
Right.
Go ahead, wrap it up.
But quite separately from what you're talking about, which is a big issue that's worth discussing in another context. Quite separately from that, they literally just said unemployment is below 4%, and the facts turn out that no, unemployment's around 26% under the same metrics, under the current metrics. Yep. They just absolutely straight lied about it.
All right.
So next slide.
Next slide. Okay, so I don't know if the audience can see it, if they can see no more blood for corn, or if they just see corn.
Yeah, they can see it. They can see everything.
Oh, perfect. Okay, got it. All righty. So
can you not see it?
I can't, but it doesn't matter what I can see because I have the slides. All right. Okay. Anyway, so
we need to do a tech call. We need to do a tech call later, Mario. It doesn't have to be today, but it needs to be soon. I need to see what you see while you're in studio, so I know what you're looking at.
That's right. As long as you say the audience can see the full screen, that's all.
But yeah, they can see the whole slide.
All right. So no more blood for corn. All right. 40K joke. Sorry, I'm a nerd. Forgive me. Anyway, so just so people understand, like the Ukraine has been losing the war, okay, with Russia, but they're just not losing it quickly. It's not like, blitzkrieg style advances, okay, taking vast sections of the country with single, offensive drives. The warfare has been revolutionized by this Russo-Ukraine war, and not necessarily for the better. The lessons learned from this war are going to change U.S. Army doctrine for years to come. But the bottom line is Russia is always advancing, okay, and Ukraine is always losing more troops than Russia is losing. Okay, that's your basic math that you're dealing with. So to continue fighting, Ukraine would have to start conscripting the 18 to 25-year-olds to fill the ranks of the depleted army. So up until now, 18 and 25-year-olds have been like hands off when it comes to recruitment officers or crimpers, which is what the British used to call them, just going out and rounding up the lads and bringing them in.
Mario, let me ask you some questions real quick for clarification.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that the military recruiters, Ukrainian military recruiters, are not supposed to recruit from the pool of 18 to 25-year-olds?
They can recruit. They can't just snatch them off the street and force them to join the army, which is what you're seeing in that
That's
photo.
the distinction.
Okay?
I want to make sure that
Yeah.
the audience understands that distinction.
Correct.
So,
yeah, anyone 18 and up can be recruited to join the army, but if you're between the ages of 25 and 65, you can just be press ganged right off the street, okay, and forced into the army. Given 3 weeks of training,
conscripted,
Yeah.
or the word just to really drive it home for the audience, since they're mostly Americans, drafted.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what you see there in that photo. Okay. And there are hundreds of videos like this. Okay, out of Ukraine, dudes just getting basically kidnapped off the streets.
Oh, so they're not taking him to his bachelor party?
No. That man's on his way to MEPS. Okay, or the Ukrainian equivalent. So
have you ever run a party kidnapping?
A party kidnapping?
Yeah, it's big fun.
No. What is that like?
Where you stage a kidnapping for somebody to take them to their party, birthday party, bachelor party, something. So
no, I've done that. That'd be fun.
So they're terrified, and then they're released and unmasked to a keg and dancing girls.
That sounds good for me. My motto has always been strength through trauma. Okay.
Yeah.
Zelensky and his cabinet vowed never to do such. So reneging on this would be to revolt. Okay. So what holds Ukrainian society together at this point? Okay. A lot of it is basically shared struggle. Okay. But there's a type of matriarchy, okay, that exists in Slavic countries. It's not like a hard power matriarchy. It's more like soft power social control, right? Like the meme where you see, mass surveillance in different countries. It shows like Britain, and it shows cameras on every corner, right? United States, it shows like an FBI spook basically combing through your internet records, right? And then it shows like Eastern Europe, and it's just a series of babushkas staring down from commie blocks at everybody in the street and keeping tabs on everything going on with the whole neighborhood, right? That's kind of that Eastern European vibe. Now, if you start plucking essentially babies, all right, from the arms of these women and forcing them to basically go die for nothing, then you're gonna get not necessarily revolution, but mass revolt, okay, from the people. A lot of these people, the average age for a soldier on the Ukrainian front line is our age, Chris, okay? Did you know that?
Jesus.
Yeah, 43. Well, I'm 44, but still, same thing, right? Early 40s, that's the average age of a Ukrainian soldier right now on the front. They have effectively genocided our generation. Our generation basically doesn't exist anymore in the Ukraine. All right, we are all dead, and there are millions of kids who are growing up without a father as a result of this war. Now, if you start, they've devastated the millennial population, devastated the Gen X population. So to then turn around and start snatching up the Zoomers and send them to die as well would be the last straw. That would truly be to the last Ukrainian, as people joke, okay, effectively a genocide of the country. Key U.S. senators, including Lindsey Graham, because of course, Lindsey Graham never saw a war he didn't like, okay, pressured Zelensky to lower the age of conscription, right? Looks like that's not going to happen, thank God. So, next slide. All right. So, let's talk about the call. Phone call was made yesterday between Donald Trump and President Putin, and they agreed to a basic outline, a basic framework to establish peace in the Ukraine. And very encouraging from Putin's own words. He said that I agree with Donald Trump in achieving a common sense approach, okay, to solving this problem, which is what needs to happen, basically. But just the killing needs to stop. All right. So there's going to be a meeting with Vice President Vance, Rubio, Zelensky being set up on Friday. All right. Trump has firmly declared that it's time to stop the Russo-Ukrainian war, and that the European partners are going to need to be at the table as well. Everybody needs to agree. Everyone needs to agree on the final decision, and the U.S. is probably going to have to expend a lot of political capital to corral European partners into agreeing with it. All right, that's going to be difficult. It's most certainly going to be difficult. So they've got until April 20th, which is the official end of fighting. April 20th is Easter this year, being done symbolically, obviously, to end the war on Easter. So yeah, there's going to be some heavy diplomatic lifting in the very near future to get all parties to agree. I thought the most interesting part of this is that Trump calls Putin and they agree to this basic framework, and only after that conversation, after coming to those agreements, then he called Zelensky and let him know what's going on. Like, hey, I'm in charge now. You've got kind of a situation here. Let me tell you what you're going to do, is essentially Donald Trump's approach to Zelensky. And given the billions upon billions of dollars that we funneled into that country, I don't think Zelensky has any right to protest against it.
Well, yeah,
right?
not unlike Canada and what Trump said about Canada. And let's be real. This is true of literally every country on the planet other than the United States. You exist at our pleasure because we are subsidizing your existence. Every country on the planet in their current form exists only the way they do because the U.S. is subsidizing you. Now, a lot of that ends with the closure of U.S. aid, but let me break that down for you just a little bit. Take all your European countries, your Canada, right? Everywhere that Bernie Sanders likes to point at and say, well, they have universal health care, and so should we. They have free college, and so should we. We are paying for that with America by subsidizing their national defense, covering the cost of their military apparatus, and by just straight giving them money. And let's not forget, with all the talk about tariffs and everything, Donald Trump has been proposing things like 25%, 50% tariffs. All of these big countries that we're already subsidizing, they're carrying 1, 2, and 300% tariffs on American exports, on key American exports. Right? Canada carries 135%, I think it is, tariff against American dairy exports. And for example, right? So they're already billing us, right? When they talk about, when you hear these lefties talk about, oh, there's a national sales tax, they're going to increase your costs. Guess what? Every company in America that produces a good which you purchase and the company exports, part of the cost of that good to you is paying the tariff to England, to Canada, to China, to wherever that's being exported to. So that's the case with all of the European, the Western countries, right? Then, and remember, I began this with every country on the planet exists in the way it does currently only because it's subsidized by the United States. There are other countries like China, North Korea, right, where we're sending them food aid that the government is intercepting and repackaging to redistribute it so that they can pretend to their citizens that the communist government is actually feeding them. And those countries are getting a different sort of subsidy from the United States, but they are still subsidized to exist in their current format in that way. And then you get to the third type of country that we're subsidizing is the war-torn regions of parts of South America and almost all of Africa and the Middle East, where you have warlords that are the de facto government. And those are funded by intercepting U.S. foreign aid packages and U.S. aid projects for, Trans Sesame Street and the like. You've got these guys calling up and they're like, hey, we're an advocacy group that plans on teaching trans values to Saudi Arabian children, and we need $100 million. Okay, here's a check. But the biggest piece of the funding that they get is we send them the aid, they intercept it, and then that keeps them in power, because now the people are like, oh, Mr. Warlord, please, let me get my AIDS pill or a Band-Aid for my gunshot wound. Right. And then, of course, you've got the fourth category, which is the narco state that we're actively subsidizing by creating what are ostensibly labeled and intended to appear to be sting operations, but they're really just another mechanism of the intelligence apparatus, where it is captured by Democrat control, of laundering money and marketing illicit substances. We're subsidizing the entire planet. So yes, if Donald Trump says it's time to shut your shit down, it's time to shut your shit down.
Yeah. Pax Americana is a global welfare scheme, to put it simply. All right.
Yes.
Okay, back to that slide. So interesting. At the same time, where Trump is Trump is agreeing to some basically opening terms of the negotiations. All right. Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, is in Brussels at a big NATO muckety-muck meeting, right? And declares that there will be no NATO membership for Ukraine. This is critical. This is one of Russia's absolute red line demands, right? They're not going to have a NATO country, or to have another NATO country, all right, with multinational forces, all right, setting up shop right on their border, all right. So it's like I said, and Hegseth stated that, this isn't really a cause for celebration. Okay, it's really tragic everything that has happened, because if we had simply abided by kind of the original terms that we had with Russia after the fall of the USSR, after the fall of the Soviet Union, then this war never would have happened. It was the United States and its partners who kept pushing the envelope again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And it ramped up to a fever pitch, fomenting war under the Obama administration. All right. Basically, the Ukraine war, it was the Obama administration that guaranteed this was going to happen. Biden was just the dupe who was in office at the time, and Russia knew that it basically no time like now. Okay, with Biden in office, saw that all over that's why the world was on fire while Biden was president, because they knew that every bad actor knew that they can get away with it, because with such a feckless administration, they're not going to be able to direct any kind of diplomacy or any kind of coalition of forces against an adversary.
Well, the plan as far back as 2015 was to set all this up, and then Hillary was going to come in and be the wartime president that oversaw World War III, never-ending, perpetual global World War III.
Right, or World War III would have been governments against their own citizens. Okay, kind of like you see in the United Kingdom. Anyway, next slide. All right, so this is basically what it's going to look like. All right, at least tentatively. What this means is that Ukraine is banned from joining NATO and must declare neutrality. Okay, there have to be a neutral state that borders NATO countries and Russia itself.
Does that mean they're going to start making chocolate?
What, like the Swiss?
Yeah.
I guess they need to. I think they need to focus on some primary industries first. Okay, the Ukrainian economy.
Like food.
Yeah, exactly. Like food. Yeah, luxury chocolates come later. Let's just get some weed on the table. So Ukraine is banned from joining NATO and must declare neutrality. Right. Also, Ukraine must withdraw their forces from Kursk. We did a whole show on that. Okay, a while back. Basically, Ukraine's desperate gamble to redirect forces from the front line in eastern Ukraine into Russia itself, and it failed miserably. Why? Well, part of the reason is Putin just decided, Putin hired a bunch of North Korean soldiers, all right, to basically go do the fighting for him in Kursk, which is kind of funny. There's a lot of North Korean fighters in Kursk right now, fighting against the Ukrainians. And the North Korean government was fine with it because, let's be honest, they have a huge army but zero combat experience. So Kim Jong-un is like, yeah, well, let's cycle boys in and out on a regular rotation so that they can pop their combat cherry. And then that way, if we have actual battlefield experience in the event we get into war with South Korea. So it makes sense on the North Korean.
North Korea's last military engagement was the was the tree in the DMZ.
Much.
That's the last thing they had
Yep.
that even closely resembled a combat engagement. And you want to talk about getting your ass completely smashed.
So, and Kiev is going to Kiev will have to accept Russian sovereignty over all the annexed lands. So what you see there in red, those are all the former Ukrainian lands that are under Russian control right now.
Wait, Mario, I would 100% buy this product. Kiev kimchi would be great Russian trolling.
Yeah. All right. And then obviously the front line will be the frozen. There will be a ceasefire on April 20th, which is Easter this year. That is basically the end of the conflict. All right, according to the plan. Very symbolic. All right. And Trump is big on the symbolism. Okay, of choosing choosing certain dates and times, and it's important to the Orthodox people as well. All right. We're going to have a DMZ in Ukraine now, basically, between the Ukraine and Russia. European and UK soldiers will basically be the forces on the ground, regular rotations, in and out, establishing a security presence along that demilitarized zone. How that develops over time, I'm not certain. Will it become a generational duty, kind of like between North and South Korea, the 38th parallel? I'm not sure. But either way, it's better than another million men dying. Okay, we'll put it that way. All right. So yeah, that's what Ukraine will look like at the conclusion of this war. The red territories will be going to Russia. Crimea already was, of course, but still.
Right.
All right. Next slide. Oh dear, poor Zelensky.
Go ahead and disable your camera for a minute. Mario, there you go.
Yeah.
They can still hear you. Now
I know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, poor Zelensky. He's about to find out. What happens to people? What happens to armed combatants? Okay, strong men who are United States' friends until they are not their friend. Okay, if you if you look up to the heavens here, we see Noriega, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, and Omar Gaddafi. All right, all former allies, former tools of the United States government and U.S. military, who eventually fell into the poor graces, okay, of their former employer, and met an untimely death. If I was Zelensky's taste tester right now, I would be hiring my own taste tester. Okay, put it that way. I don't know where this.
Make that same joke about Elon. I hope Elon Musk's taste tester has a taste tester.
Yeah, I think it was Razor. Wasn't it Razor Fist? Yeah. Anyway,
I think so. Probably.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I don't know. Zelensky owns a mansion in Miami. Maybe that's his plan. I don't know. But yeah, this guy needs to watch his back. Okay. No way he's going to be able to stay in Ukraine without being assassinated. All right. So this war never needed to happen, as I said previously. If we had abided by our commitment not to expand NATO after the fall of the USSR, neither this war nor 30 years of bad blood between the USA could have been avoided. I think did I do a bad grammar there? I did a bad grammar. Uh-oh. Anyway, but yes, all the bad blood with the United States and Russia, it could have been avoided if we had simply abided by what we originally stated, that we weren't going to be expanding NATO eastward. Okay. And let's be honest, fortunes were made creating a death spiral that resulted in nearly the deaths of 1 million European men. Okay. In Ukraine, which is an absolute tragedy. Like, you want to talk about white genocide, what's been going on in Ukraine is absolutely a part of that. In fact, they wanted, I think part of the psyop behind this war was they really did want vast numbers of young Western men, okay, who feel like with nothing to lose, like the incel population, okay, to head over to Ukraine and to fight, all right, for like the Azov division, Azov battalion. I really do think they tried to create like a honeypot to get a lot of young men disaffected young men from Western countries to go fight there. It didn't work, largely because because of independent media, okay, and basically because of the internet. Anyway,
well, like when Zelensky first started handing out rifles to people, just, hey, you know what? Just come and take a rifle and get on the front line. We covered that on the show, and there was so much there. Like you had what's his face from Star Trek, the Chinese guy, the Japanese guy, whatever. Coming, hey, you know what? It sure would be nice if they had if all the people over there had rifles. We're like, hey, anti-2A guys, no shit.
Yeah.
Right?
It's George Takei, anyway.
That's it. That's it. That's one of those things. Like Russia would not be invading Ukraine if Ukraine had a Second Amendment. Right? And then the other piece of that, as soon as Zelensky started handing out rifles, of course, we joked on the show about, how much is a plane ticket? How many times, like I could go in and get a rifle, shave my beard and get another rifle, shave my mustache and get another rifle, shave my head and get a fourth rifle, a fifth rifle. Be like voting for Tammany, man. Just keep getting a haircut and getting back in line.
You ain't done your civic duty, boy. You ain't done. But yeah, I guess this is big for me. There were several things that, voting for Donald Trump for a third time, all right, that were non-negotiable for me. Okay, and this is the second one. The first one was J6 pardons. Okay, non-negotiable. And then the second was end this godforsaken war in the Ukraine, which is just squandering the lives of European men for nothing. And I'm glad it's coming to again. Never again. Okay. How many genocides does Ukraine have to suffer? Okay. I mean, they got Ukraine had a genocide in the 20th century, all right, the Holodomor in the 1930s, resulting in way more than 6 million deaths. Okay, we can say, and now we're having another genocide at the beginning of the 21st century, right? Never again. Okay, if we can say never again for another atrocity, I think we can say it for this as well. So that's basically all I have to say.
Yeah. And I think that's a pretty comprehensive coverage of the deal as it's proposed. We'll be watching it as it develops. The Ukraine war is not over today, but it very well may be in the coming week.
Yep. Should be shortly by April 20th. Like I said, April 20th.
Right. We know the Donald to be a hyperbolist. He said day one, and there was a lot of movement before he was even inaugurated. Before the inauguration even happened, we were getting overtures from Putin, like, okay, we're ready to come to the table and talk. Right? Same thing from Hamas and Israel and basically every other bad actor that's acting.
This is different because this was the first time Donald Trump has spoken directly to Putin.
Correct.
Since winning his third term.
Correct.
I like calling it his third term. But
I like calling it his third win, but not his third term.
Yeah, I get it. Same idea. Yep.
So, right. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and put a pin in it there. Thanks for doing this morning, Mario. You going to join us tomorrow morning for Firearms Friday?
I'm not sure about that. Do you have Kimmy Cams coming on?
I hope so.
Okay.
Let's look at the live chat. Hey, Cameron, are you going to be on tomorrow morning? I know Cameron's got some big moves going on right now, so he might be too busy tomorrow morning. But we'll see what happens. I can do it with myself if I have to.
Candy Cams and the Little Debbie Mafia. That's
right. And maybe we
can take it over Stone
Mountain. Maybe we can entice a cheeseburger to come in. If we can get Cameron to take off his shirt and just like smear a cosmic brownie over his chest, I bet you Cheeseburger will bring 10,000 new subscribers.
I'm pretty sure Cheeseburger 41% after the election, but
All right.
To Cheeseburger.
Cheers. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao.